What's blazing, gents, and welcome back to Forza Horizon 5. We are here with another seasonal championship, this time sprinting to the finish. We need to use a hypercar in the S2 class. So hypercars, some of them are ruled out because we're not available at the auto show, others are ruled out because they are costing 4 or 5 million. So I've chosen the Senvo TSRS because it's at 1.2 million, so it's still expensive, but at least sort of affordable. Tuning share code is in the description as always. I'd say we jump right into it and see what this beast can do. It's one of my favorite cars in the hypercar class. I was tempted by using the Aventador because it's at 350k. So if you want to use something a little more inexpensive, the Aventador is the car for you. However, it's in the S1 class, so make sure you use a tune that brings it into the S2 class. Important to know, while we take a picture here real quick, important to know is that you don't actually need to use a car with the rating 998. So that's not a requirement, it just has to be in the S2 class, so above, or well, above not 900. So 901 is already enough to participate in this race. And it's also not a negative thing to use a 901 rated car, because the other cars that you are driving against are balanced according to the car you are using. So the irony is, because 998 rated cars are harder to drive than 901 rated cars, the irony is that actually using a 998 rated car, which is what we are doing here right now, makes the race harder for you because you have a harder to control car and the AI just scales accordingly anyway. So it doesn't really matter how fast your car is. Obviously in an online race it's different because other people will make the most of the S2 class, so other people will use the faster 998 rated cars. But in an offline race like this in a championship, especially in the S2 class where the cars get really fast, it's not the worst idea to pick a low rated S2 class car. Low in comparison. Because the Aventador has a lot of tunes in the 920 range and it's a lot more controllable and stable than the Senvo. That being said, the Senvo is a great car. It's fantastic, you just need to be careful because it's really fast. So you really want to drive a little bit more careful, pay a little bit more attention to what you are doing, and don't take as many risks. Because if you take a risk and it goes wrong at that speed with that power, you very quickly fly off the road and the race is over. That can happen. That's race number 1 in the bag already. Obviously the race times are really, really short when you use a 998 rated car. S2 class races in general, where they go by so quickly. And that's really where I say, okay, maybe do 2 laps for B class and 4 laps for S2 class and 3 laps for your A class and S1 class in these championships. I think that would be a way to balance it out a little bit, because C-class, D-class races, especially D-class and C-class, they take forever. B-class still not the most fun in the world, but it's okay. We can argue that B-class can have its 3 laps. A-class definitely, it's fine. S1 class still it's okay, but especially S2 you can make that 4 laps, for example. The sprints, okay, doesn't really make a difference because the sprint is as long as it is. That guy didn't start, maybe his battery was empty. So with sprints it doesn't really make a difference, you can't really do much there. Unless you want to say, okay, we include one of the very long races, Goliath or whatever the other thing is called. If you want to include these, okay, be my guest. They sometimes include the Goliath. I think it's called the Goliath, or was that in Horizon 4? I'm sure someone will correct me if it's wrong. Anyway, you can include that race, and sometimes they do include that race. Then it's just a one race championship, but sometimes it is in the playlist as a championship. And if you do, I would very much prefer having it in an S2 class car, because the race takes forever. And maybe just save a couple minutes. That's my 2 cents on that one. Especially that race in a B class car, it's awful. It takes forever and it's just not a whole lot of fun. Because you just drive around alone anyway. You already have half the race done already. The overtaking process was relatively quick there. Not very much hassle. No issues there. With the slicks and the very big wing at the rear, the car is really glued to the road, but it also requires more braking and actual racing because you can't really get the rear to step out a little bit and then straighten the car that way. Because with a lot of other cars, where you don't have slicks, where you have a little bit more movement on the rear, with a lot of those it's possible to just make the rear step out a little bit so that you can get the car straightened for the next section. But here it's more of a classic racing, braking, turning, accelerating. Just very basic, but the other technique really doesn't work. And if you brake too late, you're done. You can use the e-brake, but it's really not the wisest idea to drift around with that thing, because once you do lose grip, you lose it for good in a lot of cases. So that's that. It's 2 races done already. This is going really well, and I like it. Where's the third one? There it is. Another sprint. Should go reasonably quickly. $23K. Obviously the awards here, they don't really warrant buying a car for 1.2 million. On the other hand, you then own these cars. You can use them again and again and again. If you only buy such a car for that one championship and then you never touch it again, okay, it's a very big investment just to get, 5 points? So I get why you wouldn't want to do that. That being said, you can drive a lot more, especially the story races, etc. You can get so much more out of that purchase price. Let's get that McLaren photographed. I'm really sorry for taking all of these pictures, but I like to make numbers bigger. I'm kind of weird like that. Photograph as much as I can. We were cutting that checkpoint. That could have gone very wrong. Can cut that one as well, that gets us closer. And now we have to plan the overtake accordingly. Not a big fan of this race. I was trying to break him off and avoid having him cut into my racing line. But he wasn't braking, so I was just braking, he was getting back ahead, but then he was braking and I was no longer braking, so that was a really odd maneuver there. A lot of these corners are not fast enough that you can flat out go through, but also not slow enough to warrant big braking. It's like these medium corners, I'm not a very big fan of them. I often misjudge how fast I can go through. And then I have to brake twice, once on the entry and once in the middle of the corner to correct the line. And the correcting the line thing is costing you a lot of time, because it messes up the way you go through the corner, because you already are leaving the line you want to take, and then you need to brake even harder to return to it. So making sure you brake correctly in the first place is really advised there, but Of course, we all want to do things correctly in the first place, right? We very nearly flew off the road there. Driving it very carefully here. I don't really want to take the risk of flying off here with 5% to go. There's a finish and we have a good lead. So at 60 points. The quickest 60 points we got in a while, eh? Alright. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope we see each other next time as well. Until then, farewell.